You're listening to the Pocketful podcast, a safe place created for people like you and me to have conversations about things that matter without the fear of being judged or condemned. My name is Luke, and this is an episode in the series titled Our Story. There will be some details down in the show notes below, but basically, this is where we get to have a conversation with friends, our friends, and maybe get the chance to walk in their shoes for a mile or two. I'm excited to have you listen in, and I pray that you'll be blessed. So, let's dive in. Hi, everyone. I'm so glad to have you guys join in for the podcast today, and I am definitely sure you will have a blast listening in today. So today we have someone very special on the episode. Her name is, she is known as Reverend Tryphena Law. And she is an ordained minister and executive director of PLUC. That stands for Pursuing Liberty Under Christ, an organization in Malaysia that provides pastoral care and pastoral counseling for those struggling with gender issues. She's had over 20 years of experience helping individuals and families in their journey. She is a unique voice in this global issue. And I am sure as we have this conversation, you will realize that and you will not regret spending this time to sit with me right under her teaching. And we're just going to have a really fruitful chat about all this issues of gender identity and things like the struggles that people from the LGBT plus community face. So, without further ado, thank you, Pastor Tryphena, for joining
Hey,
us.
most welcome, Luke. Most welcome. What a joy to join you today.
Yeah, well, the joy is all mine. I was just telling you just now, I have been so excited for this, this chat that we're gonna have, and all of the back and forth. I think we've been having for about a year. Since last year, so about
Yes,
a couple of
true.
months, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's been it's just very, very cool. I mentioned a little bit about PLUC. I talked a little bit
Mm,
about
mm.
your background, but I think for those few people who don't know you and what you're about, would it be all right if you share a little bit about your story?
Okay. Well, I represent this organization, PLUC, Pursuing Liberty Under Christ. Well, we are 21 years old this year. Okay, so I've been involved in the work for the last 20 years. What do we really do? If you notice, that this PLUC, PLU actually does have a meaning in Singapore, Malaysia, and the gay community is known as PLU, people like us. So by having a C, it was very intentional to have a C as in Christ, which means that for us as a Christian organization, we believe that transformation is only made possible because of Jesus, because of Christ. Okay, so I've been doing this work for the last 20 years, and we are focusing on the threefold mission, which is relate, advocate, and educate. What does it mean by relate? Means we provide. Those are bombastic words, sounds like very bombastic, but actually, in simple term, it means relate means we relate with people who are struggling. We relate with the family members, so they will come we journey with them. We do life with them, Luke. We just provide what we call pastoral care, and of course, for some, we will also do pastoral counseling for those who need it. Okay, so I want to emphasize here is only for those who want it. That means those who are in pain, those who are searching for their identity in the Lord, and they will come and look for us. But we don't go and mess up with other people who are not interested.
Mm,
Okay, and then advocate is the area where we bridge the gap between, basically, it's between the Christian community and the strugglers themselves. So what we do is that we will create awareness talks. We invite churches to learn how to connect with people who are actually struggling. Okay, don't bother about my dog. Okay, my dog is just want attention and want to be involved in the program as
Yeah,
well.
no worries. Yeah.
Area of educate, and that's where we provide what we call equipping for those who are interested to learn how to journey and how to do life with those who are struggling. So basically, that's what we're doing, Luke.
Hmm. And you mentioned that this has been going on since 2001, so about more than years. And I've also read on your so there is a website that you guys have, and I will link it in the description, as well as your testimony video as well, which we also talked a little bit about just now. But uh so this has been going on for more than 20 years.
Yep, we've been around for 21 years, doing the same threefold mission, and of course, being in the platform of churches, we also get to go to schools in the early days. I mean, even today, so we are sometimes we get invitations to go to public schools or even private schools to give talks. Yeah. So basically, we are here to create awareness. We are here to to sort of be a voice for those who are struggling, for those who are in pain, for those who do not want to be an LGBT, and
Mm,
either because of their faith or maybe because of the moral conviction, then
mm.
they just do not want to. So I strongly believe that no, they are also entitled the right to pursue who they want to pursue.
Wow, that's very powerful. I think that's also very unique as well because in especially in this issue, a lot of people tend to kind of want to go in their own way, and they want to make sure everyone follows that, right? But I think when you mentioned even just now that it's only for those who come to us and who are looking for that, rather than going around and chasing people down. So I think that's really cool. So you mentioned that there's the threefold mission. Would you say that there's one out of the three that is more challenging, would you say?
Well, I think Luke, any there's nothing that's not challenging
True.
because
Yeah.
you're dealing with I mean you're journeying with lives, you're journeying with people, and people are very complicated.
Yeah.
Okay, even those who are those I use the word those are struggling, those are in pain, and even as
Mhm.
they come, it takes a lot of courage to come. It takes a lot of
Mm,
courage to say that I need someone to do life with me. I need someone to support and walk with me.
mm,
Okay. So even with that itself is really challenging. And
mm.
and again, this is not something that many people who want to talk about it is a taboo. That's
Yeah.
why you are so excited with today's podcast.
Yeah. I mean, it's
You're
a
dealing
lot
with
to be. Mhm.
you're dealing with something that I would say that maybe even in the early days in my ministry, it's much more taboo than it is right now. I think in today, more people are aware and they know where to find help if they need to.
Wow. Yeah, I was just gonna say as well, like that's actually very true because, it's being vulnerable, right? You're exposing um your I guess hidden side of your personality and your interests and your desires. So yeah.
Mm, mm, mm. I think I mean no one wants to wash their own dirty linen. Okay,
Mm,
but there'll be some who think that this is not an issue. So let's not that they are not important. They can be our friends, but
mm,
but they are not the ones that we will be serving mainly. Okay, but they are
mm,
our friends. Okay, so
mm,
we are still open for conversation, for dialogues, and I think
mm,
we need a platform where there's a mutual respect. So what I'm hoping tonight is also, or even this podcast, is that we can be a voice for those who want to be transformed by Christ, and
mm,
they are really taking a lot of courage to come out and want to talk about it. So um, let's not what they call remove away their right for for
mm.
for embarking in a journey. Yeah, that's right. So it
Yeah.
is vulnerable. I think the group that's more vulnerable are the
Mm,
parents who discover that their young adults or their children are one, and then they are in so much of pain, they are in grief, they are in denial, they are in anger, they're in frustration. They
mm,
are, especially if their child wants to be a transgender, so they have lost a son, but and it's hard to gain a daughter.
mm.
So parents are even much more vulnerable.
Yeah. I mean, I can imagine like over the past 20 years, how many stories you've heard and all the tears that has been shed as well. Yeah.
Mm.
Wow.
Yeah,
Um,
all of them have their own stories. That's why
yeah.
there is no formula. There's no,
Mm,
ABC, A plus B equals to C, there is no, because they're dealing with lives, you're dealing with their trauma.
mm,
It can be trauma A or trauma B. I usually teach it this way. A
mhm,
as in absence of good things in their life. And I'm not saying that everyone absence of good things in their life, they will end up being an LGBT,
mm,
but people that we work with, we realize that a lot of time, absence of good things in their life, for example, being affirmed of their gender identity, being what they call being embraced, being loved, being accepted, being what they call given the worth as a person. So that is the absence of good things in their life. And some of them actually go through trauma B, which is bad things that takes place in their life.
mm.
Oh, my dog is again engaging with me. And
Yeah.
But for the rest of the listeners here tonight, I have a schnoodle,
Wow.
a schnauzer, a schnauzer mixed poodle. All right.
Mm.
And by the way, dogs are very good therapists. Okay,
Yes, agree.
they are good therapists. So what I'm trying to say is that bad things that happens to a person, for example, if someone has been sexually violated,
Mm,
like even today, I had one case, and this person, probably in the teens, and the person was being awakened sexually, not supposed to, but in the name of games, in the name of fun, in the name of curiosity. So another friend began to explore that person's genitalia. So that
oh
becomes
dear.
actually bad things that happen, because you're not meant
Mm,
to be that way,
mm.
but you're not meant to be exposed to that experience, but you kind of get it. Yeah. So
Yeah.
trauma A, trauma B does contribute to a person's brokenness.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I think under trauma A and trauma B, there's so many sub aspects, right? Under it as well. So yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, in my last 20 years, when I look at this and I look at my own life, for those who are interested, they can actually, I can just direct them. They can go to truelove.is,
Mm,
and there is a story called Unbroken, which is actually a very short video of my story, which is less than 8 minutes. And if you really watch everyone's story that's found in truelove.is, or you can even go to our website and you can just get into that website itself, and you find that everyone has his own narratives. And if you really look deeper, there is that trauma A, there is that trauma B. Okay.
mm,
So with this, I would say in my 20 years of being involved in the work, and also my own 10 over years before that, living in that kind of journey, I would say that at this moment I've not met anyone who is actually born this way, but
mm,
instead I'm hearing different narratives, and some of the narratives are very painful, and sometimes it's also our belief system. Well, I
mm.
call it imprinting. Okay. For example, all of us here, even yourself, Luke, at the age of 1, I don't think you're aware that you're supposed to be a male.
Yeah.
Okay. So, which means that someone has imprinted in your brain, or someone has imprinted in you, this understanding that you are a male.
Mm,
So does it make sense to you? So
yeah.
the power imprinting, I mean, for example, this person that I was journeying with, he mentioned to me that when he was very young, he was being imprinted that his male genitalia is a bit smaller than I. Imprinting that just because my genitalia is small, therefore I am not man enough. You
Wow.
know, yeah. So with that, he started to be attracted to the same sex, to want to be protected, to want to be loved, to want to be accepted. You see, it's not so much about the gender things, all right?
Mm.
It's really sometimes is what is lacking in the person, the deficit, and you begin to search elsewhere and try to look for it.
Wow. Yeah. Oh man, that's yeah. I feel like if that was the case, I would um I think there would be so many conversations to have in that realm. Oh man, I know there's so many things that we can talk about. And honestly, I know we only have about an hour of your time, and you know, I don't want to take up too much of your time. So I know we can go everywhere. And I honestly would sit here and listen for hours. Um,
Yes, yes.
yeah. But I also want to go back to what you said as well. I think with the trauma and also you mentioned the video, which I will put in the description down below. Um, I think there was one aspect that you mentioned, right, which was trauma. And I think so for those people who may not know your story, um, I'm sure that must have been really hard for you to sort of
Well,
journey through that.
yeah, yeah. I think there were a couple of things that took place in my life. First thing first is um, I had wrong belief system.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it was imprinted in me. So I was just like a piece of white paper, and there was a wrong belief system. The first wrong belief system was I need to do good, then only I will be loved. Okay, so I strive to be a people pleaser. I every time when I do something, is the end goal is so that I can be loved by somebody. Okay. Then secondly is the wrong belief system that I have is that I've been labeled as fat, labeled
Mm.
as tomboy. So that becomes something very much in my mind. Okay. And any my dog is just too noisy.
Yeah, it's okay. Does she need anything?
No,
Do you have
no,
to
no, no.
go?
I'm fine. I'm fine.
Yeah, so we're back and yeah, so the dog is taken care of. Um,
Yeah.
I think so you were talking halfway, but maybe we
Yeah,
can.
I was
Mhm.
saying that it has to do with my belief system.
Mhm.
The first thing first was that I needed to do good in order to be loved. That was a kind of imprinted in me when I was very young. Okay, I always hear
Mm.
my parents saying that be a good girl, then we loved you.
Yeah.
And then of course, secondly was a lot of internal labeling, a belief system that is not right about how people call me and label me, and that builds up a wrong belief system. But I think the third one was actually the image of man in my life, because my dad wasn't really a fantastic father. Not his fault, because he didn't know how to,
Mm.
and with that, he didn't know how to really manage funds and finance, and when I was very young, he gambles, and because of that,
Mm.
he lost a lot of money, and my mom was very frustrated, and I became a surrogate husband to my mother. So with that, there was a belief system that I needed to protect my mom. I needed to be strong for my mom, and very subtly, the image of man in my life began to be very much what they call very weak and very negative, because one day, lo and behold, when I was in my teens, my parents had a very heated argument, and this time, my father, out of his he chased all of us out of the house, chased my mom, chased four of us siblings out of the house. So that day, the belief system that I have, began to be much more ingrained, is that men are not good, men are not
Mm.
able to protect, so when I grow up, I would do better than any other guys, and stuff like that. So that was actually the turning point in my life when I was in my early teens, whereby what my father did, I began to despise the image of man. Okay, I
Mm.
began to uh, became strong, you know. But deep in me, I actually was not strong. So I again, it's like you want to do good to prove that you receive love. So everything is actually intertwined. It's not just
Mm,
one thing. It's you're dealing with narratives of people. You're dealing with their 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 experiences and their trauma.
mm,
So,
yeah.
well, I think some people may go through what I've gone through, but they does not mean that they end up being an LGBT. Okay.
Mm,
But as for myself, there was this love-hate relationship that I had with my mom. Yeah, I loved her because she's my mother, but I hated her because I never got a chance to be nurtured,
mm,
to be gentle, to learn how to receive that. But I ended up having to keep on giving in order to receive. Okay. So
wow.
when and of course, because of internal labeling and external labeling, I began to be drawn to girls who are much more gentle, girls that demonstrate probably certain personalities or certain characteristics that I'm attracted to, that I
Mm,
probably feel or assume that I do not have, and I began
mm,
to be drawn to those uh, characteristics of theirs. And of course, other than that, in my teens, I was also exposed to pornography. And this
mm,
whole world of porn has changed the way I look at sex. Okay?
yeah.
Sex itself is not a terrible thing, but when you sexualize a person, that's called lust.
Mm,
All right. So
yeah.
lust began to control my life, and people that I'm pretty much attracted to, drawn to. I realized that usually it starts with a very deep emotional attachment to the person, and then you feel like you want to have that person, you want to possess that person because you really desire love and affirmation from that person, and
Yeah.
and plus the exposure to pornography, I began to sexualize that person. Yeah.
Mm,
So, well, I think step by step, at my most vulnerable moment in my life, I got myself involved into same-sex attraction, lesbianism. Yeah.
yeah. Wow. I mean, I think, yeah, yeah, but I mean, I,
Blowing
I
your
think,
mind.
yeah, no, but I mean, I've also heard this before, but I think hearing this as we're talking about it, I think just opens up other aspects that I think makes it so much more real, and I thank you for that, for your bravery and your honesty to share it, not just with
Well,
me, but with other people as well.
it's never
Yeah.
easy, Luke. It's never
Mm,
easy. But I just hope that if what I share today, if someone who's listening to this podcast or someone is watching it, if you
mhm,
share similar pain and so far you dare not touch it, I
mm.
pray that you will have the courage one day to deal with it, because hurt people.
Wow, yeah.
So I was hurt, and I got involved with other people who are actually not from the background, but I ended up being vulnerable and hurt them, and they were also vulnerable in their own moments, and mutually we hurt each other.
Yeah. Wow. I think one thing that just sort of came to my mind, I'm not sure I wanted to ask you, but
Mm.
would you say then that sort of Christ redeemed your in a sense trauma, right? And then
Uh,
making that into your ministry now, would you say that?
Now, you see, when I was broken that time, there was a stage in my early days. I haven't come to know the Lord. Okay.
Mm,
But when I was in my teen, I started to accepted Christ in my life.
mm,
But it is just, you accept, but
mm,
um, I didn't have a relationship with Him because I still
mm,
have that belief system that I just continue to serve Him and work so that He can love me. All
pleasing
right.
people, yeah.
Yeah. So it's the doing and not the being. All right. Which
Mm,
I was so much focused in, and of course, along the way, I was still very busy doing as in serving the Lord, wanting Him to love me, and So I have a great struggle within myself internally, the conflict um, between knowing that this is not what God desire and what my flesh desire. Okay, so if some of you who have watched the testimony of my story before, I even went to the extent of going into seminary. So I did my 4 years in theological studies, and I was still living a double life then. So there was a great tension, and I would say, Lord, for me to be able to sit here today is really by your grace, because the way that tension that was happening internally, I would have gone cuckoo, you know. I
Yeah.
would have lost my sanity, but the Lord preserved me. It was only when my partner left me, I was so devastated, and I was already out from the seminary, my first year serving, and but when the person left me, I was so devastated that I was at the verge of suicidal. I was about to actually go and kill myself, but the Lord did something miraculously in my life. You know, I was frozen. I wasn't able to walk for a short
Wow.
while, and that was a battle that I have with God. You know, and of course, when I say God, you win, then I was able to walk. That's
Wow.
where I went and seek for help. Um, would I say the Lord redeemed me? Yes, I think the Lord would want to redeem anybody. Okay,
Mm,
but I had to do my part. That means the consequences of what I've done, I have to face it. You know,
mm,
I have to resign from the ministry that I was doing that moment. You know, I attended in a 24 hours resignation. I shook the whole church. You know, I hurt people, but I
mm.
was not able to handle their feelings. I have to deal with my own.
Yeah.
Okay, and I went for counseling. I went for pastoral counseling, and I also had a professional counselor that counseled me. So I had to be responsible
Yeah.
to look to work through the issues, because it takes a lot of courage. But at the moment, I have nothing else left. Now, I want to die,
Mm.
cannot die. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I had to work on those issues, and it wasn't easy. I mean, it wasn't easy because I would say that I was still battling with God. Do you really love me? You know, I'm not worthy to be loved by you. You know, but truly, he comes to redeem us. Yeah.
Mm,
So it was a step by step. You know, really following him. You know, it's not
mm.
about changing from homosexuality to heterosexuality.
Yeah.
You know, it is really about a journey towards Christ, which is towards holiness. That's the end
Mm,
goal.
yeah.
So the transformation is not transformed to be heterosexual, but is transformed into Christ likeness. That is the
Mm,
end goal. Yeah.
yeah. And I think that's such a important thing to point out as well. Like a lot of people think that, oh, if you're, homosexual or you're trans or something, then in order to be a Christian, you have to not be trans or you have to not be homosexual or in that case, heterosexual. But I think what you mentioned is so important, that it's, a changing of identity in every aspect, right? Not just our sexuality.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well, I think
mhm,
anybody that follow Christ
mhm,
would want to would say, God, I don't want my old ways. You
mm,
know, it's a new identity in Christ. What is that identity? You know,
mm,
so it's not about I think if I am, you know, what they call as a former lesbian, that
mhm.
time as a lesbian, if I were to follow Christ, then being a lesbian is not what Christ wants me to be, you know.
Wow.
Or
Yeah.
if I was an alcoholic, and following Christ means that I have to put down those bottles and say,
Mm,
God, no to that bottles, but yes to you. So it's the same right now. It's saying no to same-sex relationship or attraction or that's physical, but saying yes to Jesus. Yeah,
mm. Yeah. Well, I think, like you mentioned as well, this is also a journey.
it
Um,
is. It is.
yeah. But what was something that you would say helped you in that journey? So you mentioned about having
Mm,
that
mm.
idea of doing and like trying to please God and please people. But was there something about Christ that helped
Well, if
you?
I, yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, spiritually, we'll say that Christ did the work. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
But God uses people as well.
Mm.
So, like I say just now, I had to seek counseling for sure,
Mhm.
and then I had to be accountable to some people that knows about my struggle, so
Mm.
that at any time I still have a community that's safe enough for me to run to and share my struggles, my temptations, because it's a journey.
Yeah.
It takes the whole village to walk along with us. But those
Yeah.
the villagers, we have to gradually learn to trust.
Yeah.
You know, and not everybody can understand what we're going through.
Mm.
Sometimes you don't really need to tell everything to one person, but there's some areas in your life that maybe this person will be able to support you. And there's some areas in this part of your life that this person can support. So at the end of the day, when you are more secure in God, and that one is really your relationship with the Lord. Okay. So
Mm.
I literally had to unlearn and relearn in
Mm.
terms of my relationship with God. Yeah. So
Wow.
God is interested in my being, in my relationship with Him more than my doing.
Mm.
Sometimes we think that we read the word more, we do our devotion, we go to church, we give tithes. That is, that can be doing if it's a
Mm.
legalism. Okay, but
Yeah.
when you know why you are giving, why you're serving, why you are, your prayer is like breathing. Prayer
Yeah.
is the core of a relationship with God, because that's talking to God
Yeah.
and reading His Word. It becomes not a chore. It becomes something that, even if it's just that one verse, but it is, it illuminates itself to you. It's so refreshing. So
Yeah.
I actually had to unlearn and relearn, and really putting aside even the 4 years of whatever theological that I've learned, and say, God, here I am. First thing first is, Lord, I acknowledge I'm your daughter, I'm
Mm.
your child, and that's my identity first and foremost. I'm a child of
Mm.
God. So it wasn't easy to come to that stage at the beginning, because you feel yourself so unworthy. It's like the prodigal
Mm.
son, the story,
Yeah.
of how the prodigal son say, Father, you don't really have to do much. You just let me be like one of your servant, and just,
Mm.
you know, uh, but but God has given us this identity as His children. So when we come back to Him, it's like the father who received the prodigal son, giving him the best, having a feast, because we have come back to the Lord. That's why, um, first thing first, it takes a lot of courage to come out, but,
Mm.
but it takes a lot of grace to come home.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love that because I remember seeing that on your website, your video as
yeah,
well. At the very end, it says "come out," and then it doesn't just stop there. It says "come home."
yes, yes,
Um,
yeah. That's the
yeah.
that's the key for that True Love Dot is.
Mm.
All their videos will have this come out and come home, just like right now at this podcast. I just want to encourage anyone who's struggling,
Mm.
to take up the courage to come out to the right people.
Mm.
I'm sure there are people who are safe enough for you to talk to, and come
Mm.
home to the Father. It's not
Mm.
just it's not just come out and be so arrogant and so. Well, that is your right
Yeah.
if you want to
Yeah.
do that, but there are people who are in pain. They need a home to go to. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm. I think also when talking about the people in pain, I think the church um has a role to play in that. And I think that we can make that a
Mm.
positive role, right? A lot
Yes.
of people sort of focus on the negatives and what the church has failed to do or has done wrongly.
Yeah.
I think especially for some those people who are Christian and have grew up in church and then sort of been hurt by the church.
Mm.
But what would you say are some challenges that people from the LGBT plus community struggle with? And maybe on top of that, then how can the church help and sort of minister to that?
Maybe let me clarify that there are two groups, okay? Two groups
Mm-hmm.
of LGBT.
Mm-hmm.
One will be very much enjoying and very what they call proud to be one. Okay, so
Mm.
they are open, the open
Yeah.
gay, and they don't they don't care what you think. Okay,
Mm.
right? Because they're happy being one. So so honestly speaking, they would never go to church
Mm.
because there's no reason for them to go to church. Okay, they're happily being in their community. So I think if I were to address to Bible believing Christians, uh, please be respectful and leave them alone.
Mm.
All
Yes.
right, yeah. We have no right to discriminate or to judge them. That's what they want to do, and I strongly believe that one day all of us need to give an account for the things that we have done before the Lord. Okay,
Yeah.
but there's another group of LGBT that is in the closet. They are probably hidden, and maybe some of them are in the church. All right. So when we talk about church, again, we need to define what is the church. Church is not the building. The
Mm.
church is the people. Okay. When we talk about how would the church respond, is how would the people respond? Okay.
Yeah.
And a lot of time, what we do not know, we end up either we react because we do not know, and we end up causing a lot of hurts. We discriminate.
Mm.
We use the Bible to bash people. I will always say never use the Bible to bash people. Okay,
Mm.
the Bible is to bash yourself. All right, the word of God penetrates in us.
Amen.
It's,
Yeah.
it's actually to change us. Okay,
Mm.
but it's important to know that if you do not know what to do, then
Mhm.
I would encourage you to start reading, to
Um,
start to have a better understanding. Okay.
mm.
But I say just now, there are lots of narratives, there are lots of things that have caused one. Maybe those who are happily being one, then they you don't really need to find out the narratives unless they ask you. But you still
Mm.
can be their friends. We have
Yeah.
friends who are still in the community, and they want to continue to live as one. I always tell them, I mean, people that have come into our doors, not everybody wants to be supported the journey. Some of them
Mm.
has choose to walk out. So I always tell them that my door is always open. We
Wow.
welcome, and they know very well that we welcome them to have a cup of coffee and things like that, because we
Mm.
don't believe in forcing anybody to change. We
Wow.
have no right to force anybody to change. Only Christ has the power to transform a person's life. Okay, our role is just to walk with them, do life,
Mm.
listen, and be that safe space that they can just talk, and whatever that they want to bounce with, if they allow us, we will just speak the truth. You know,
Mm.
and and it's not easy to hear the truth. The truth is always very uncomfortable. Okay,
Mm.
yeah, but we know very well that only the truth can set a person free.
Amen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I
I
think
think
the
that's
church,
yeah.
the church
Mm-hmm.
can be equipped. Luke,
Mm-hmm.
the church, that means us.
Yeah.
We can be equipped.
Mm.
Yeah, at least to have a better understanding.
Yeah. This is just my I guess my thoughts. Like when you say equipped to understand, um I'm afraid that some would say, okay, I understand. Now I'm going to, go and have conversations and sort of use my Christian stick and poke them. But I think also like it's going
I think,
further than that.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think we need to see everybody through a lens of humanity. Okay.
Mm,
When we say about humanity here means how God would look at them.
mm,
If you look at even the Samaritan woman by the well, you know, Jesus didn't say straight away, hey, you got how many men in your life, and the one that you're living
mm,
right now is not even your husband. Jesus didn't do that, okay?
mm.
I
Yeah.
mean, he is God's son, and he's God himself. Don't you think he knows?
Mm,
No. I think first thing first is, whatever understanding or knowledge that you have doesn't mean that you have the entrance into a person's life. The
Mm.
only way to have entrance in a person's life is when there is a relationship.
Wow. Yeah.
You know, Jesus, very intentional. He actually sat at the well, and at that time, that woman was there, and Jesus knew that it is his. God has, that is his role to reach out to this woman. Yeah, and you find that he's very gentle. If you learn from that story, he's very gentle. He didn't go
Mm.
and he didn't go and be so busybody and intrude in the person's life. He just asked for something. He said, would
Mm.
you like? Can you give me a drink? And that surprises this woman because we are so different.
Mm.
And I think even with our LGBT friends, sometimes just be their friend, and see through the lens of that person as an LGBT, just like
Mm.
how you see through the lens of somebody who who may be different than you, like this Samaritan woman. And
Mm.
Jesus see through that whatever that person is currently doing, Jesus see through, that behavior, that action of that person, and say, "Can you just give me a drink?" And the
Mm.
conversation begins. And after
Mm.
that, you find that from the conversation, it goes deeper and deeper. And that's where Jesus can offer her something that she has always
Mm.
been looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so inevitable as well when you have conversations with people, like a genuine conversation. It's inevitable that it will go deeper. So
Yeah.
it's like you don't have to force it. Yeah. So I think that's really
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. And
Um,
sometimes you can sense that person is not ready. Don't push.
mm,
That person may have gone through sexual violation. That person may have
yeah.
gone through domestic violence, a lot of abuse in that person's life, and that person is not ready to touch the pain.
Mm,
But if there is no relationship, that is very much like you are intruding to the person's privacy.
mm.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. I'm just yeah, I think I mean I'm sure many people would know that you've been committed and passionate about your ministry and doing this for, I mean, 20 years. That's a long time. But I think I've also mentioned to some of my friends that it's so um I guess heartbreaking, I guess, because there's so many people out there who are suffering and who are going through so much pain and hurt. And of course now we're talking about LGBT. And there are so many people out there who um are
But there are
giving.
many who are happy too, Luke.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
All right. So let's be
Mhm.
respectful for those who are happy, leave them
Yeah.
alone.
Yeah, yeah, of course. And of course if they're happy and they're living their life and in a sense living their truth,
Yeah.
in that phrase, of course that's something that we have to respect. But I do have friends who have um been struggling
Mm,
and they are in pain, and when they listen to others they are still sort of trapped in that pain. So everyone's just giving different ideas and different advice, but it still, I guess, leaves them feeling alone and isolated.
yeah.
Um, yeah. So, I mean, I guess maybe that's why one of the things that made me so excited about today's talk. Um, but
Mm,
if I were to maybe dig a little deeper, um, what is some um, or maybe what is one thing, maybe because of time, what is one thing that you wish you knew when you were younger, going through this, I guess, like you mentioned, the imprinting process.
mm.
Yeah, what is one thing that you would wish you would have known?
Mm, I wish I would have known the five love language,
Mm,
which means that the way my parents loved me uh, is I wish I would have been able to perceive the way they loved me, rather than wanting them to love me the way I wanted to be loved. Yeah.
mm,
So if I would have at least knew that, my love tank would have been pretty full most of the time.
mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I mean, there's so many things. I think this is one question that very seldom people ask me, but I'm glad that you just brought it up. So it causes me to think a little bit. Uh, you know,
Mm,
yeah, I think there are lots of things, but I think one of it is um, my parents didn't know how to be a healthy couple.
mm,
They never had a chance. So if you ask me, one of the things is I would also hope that they would have an opportunity to build their marriage and to be healthy, not perfect. Then I think with that,
mm,
that would have been, I would say that it might have helped them. Yeah.
mm. Yeah. No, and thank you for that, that honesty and being vulnerable on this. Um, I think maybe we can move on to the next one. Um, so you were mentioning how you have been in ministry, sorry, in seminary for 4 years, and you've got all this theological training and being equipped and all of the big books and the big names. And I know there's a lot of resources on your website, and also there's many other people who have written and spoke on these issues. Um, but I want to get your, I guess, opinion or your take on this. So I think what I've come to realize recently and over the past couple of years is that this world that we live in is quite maybe obsessed, right, with sex and sexuality.
Mm.
And would you say that that's also something that has sort of seeped into the church? And do you think that the church has also
Mhm.
inevitably been a little bit influenced by that? Like they are obsessed with sex.
Well, I think it's not about obsessed with sex. It's
Mm-hmm.
about the whole ideology of human rights.
Mm,
It's humanism. It's like I like to do what I want to do. Okay.
mm-hmm.
So when you have this in your mind that I have the right to do what I want to do, and right now, even in the younger generation, I'm entitled with the right
Mm,
to do what I want to do. Okay.
mm-hmm.
So you find that the whole ideology is about humanism, is about your right. So when you have that in mind, whatever that I feel like, who I want to have sex with, how I want to have sex with, how
Mm,
many types of gender there will be is no longer
mm,
two, but it's been more than that. How do I want to be called as a what do you call preferred gender pronoun? Don't call me he, she,
mm,
they, it. Call me your, call me her. Whatever.
mm,
So it's all about my right. Can you
mm,
see that? So this whole ideology did not just happen overnight.
mm,
It has been ingrained for so many years. Uh, I always say that since Genesis chapter 3, when
mm.
when Adam and Eve decided to do what they want to do, that's the beginning of human right. And if you look at it, that was the beginning whereby the world no longer is the world that God has created.
Wow.
Okay, relationship is broken, the world is distorted, image is distorted. You find that jealousy begin to take place, manipulation, anger, murder. Read the word of God. Since after Genesis chapter 3, you find that all these things start to take place.
Mm,
Okay, um, and we truly believe that Christ came to redeem.
mm,
Yes, the second Adam, and that's where in our restoration, in our transformation is into Christ likeness to be more like him. Yeah, that's right. So churches, well, you can see that um, even in Christian community, there will be different doctrines being practiced,
mm,
being preached. Okay? There will
mm,
be a very liberal uh, theology. There will be what we call the revisionist. Okay, that means they
mm,
revisit the Bible and they begin to adapt the Bible to what they want. Again, you see, it's humanism that has set
mm,
in. So the world is not. I mean, the world and also the church is not spared.
mm,
Yeah, we're living
mm.
in the last days.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. things are going to be much more challenging. Okay,
Mhm.
but the truth of God still remains the same.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, yeah, because I've been thinking about this as well. Like, I think the whole issue of sex and gender and identity, and also how the church is sort of addressing it as well. I think it's coming at uh,
It's very
sort of a,
challenging. It's
yeah.
very
There's like a,
challenging.
yeah. There's like this brick wall in between, and they're
Mm.
trying to fight and fight and fight. And so, yeah, I think it's great that you mentioned that, everyone has this idea, or this different set of doctrines.
Mm. Even
you know
even even with regards to this whole LGBT, you find that there are different camps.
mm,
Okay? There'll be some that there'll be one that says that okay, God uh, God created us this way. We're born this way. God
mm,
created us this way. So if you have this, then same-sex marriage is not an issue.
mm,
Okay, but they still call themselves Christian gays.
mm,
Yeah. Then you have some that say that, oh, I am born with this inclination. I'm born with this inclination to a same sex, but God didn't design me this way. So I
mm,
choose to be celibate. And the
mm,
person still call himself Christian gay.
mm,
So I personally believe that if I have accepted Christ, and even when I sin and I come back to the Lord, my identity is I'm still a child of God. I'm a Christian.
mm,
I'm not an alcoholic Christian. I'm not a gay Christian. I'm not
mm,
a drug addict Christian.
mm.
I don't need to have that title as a gay Christian, but
Yeah,
I'm just a Christian. Yeah.
yeah.
In
So no need to
fact,
add on to that. Yeah.
yeah. In fact, I should be adding. If I want to add on, I'm a born again Christian.
Amen. Yeah.
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 Not a
Wow.
born gay Christian, but I'm a born
Mm.
again Christian.
Amen.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So thank you so much for your time. I know we're running
Most
out of
welcome.
time, but maybe we can do one last one before we sort of wrap this up.
Hmm.
Um, so what are some comforting words you would like to share, right, to anyone who from the LGBT community that is in pain, right? So not those who are, accepting
Well,
and
I will
okay with
address to
that.
both.
Yeah, sure. If you'd like to do that, that would be great.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think for those who are happily being one, we just want you to know that we have no right to discriminate you. We are not here to judge you for what you're doing. In fact, we have no right to judge you at all. Okay,
Wow.
but I would just my pleas for those who are happily being one that if you have a chance, just get to know Jesus more. All right, get to know him. All right, then you will be able to differentiate whether he's discriminating you or not. Okay,
Mm,
but my plea for those who are in the closet, for those who were once in my shoes, that I was in your shoes before. I think I've done that at least maybe twice really in this postcards even earlier on. Is that um, you don't have to go through that pain alone. Just like what Luke is saying, some of your friends could be in that kind of pain. You don't have to, but it does take courage for you to reach out. And if you would like to give yourself an opportunity, you can reach out to us. Okay, I'm sure Luke will be able to put all the contacts and numbers and stuff like that, which you can find on the web page. Okay, um, give yourself an opportunity to discover your identity and also to work through your pain. At the end of the day, whether you still want to remain as with same-sex attraction or trans or whatever, that is your call. But at least you give yourself an opportunity to work through your pain, because I my heart desire is that you don't live in pain.
mm.
All right, that's my heart's
Wow.
desire. And who you want to become doesn't mean that I condone. Okay, accepting you does not mean that I affirm that behavior,
Mm,
but we are open to have conversation. We're open to journey with you, and we hope that that would lessen your pain, and so that you would know what you really want to do or who you want to be in that sense. Yeah.
yeah.
So
Wow. Yeah.
come out and come home.
Amen. That's so wholesome.
Yeah,
I love it. I love it.
yeah,
It's so
yeah.
great. Okay, so that's all the time we have, unfortunately. But like I said before, we could talk about this for hours and maybe even days. So maybe we won't do that right now. But once again, Professor. See, I enjoy listening to you speak that I called you my professor. But thank you so much, Pastor. Try. Thank
Yeah,
you for taking
most
this
welcome.
time. I know your schnoodle was needing your attention as well. But I think the fact that you took out some time to just talk with me about this and just share all of this wisdom that you have um really blows my mind, and I'm so thankful for you. I'm thankful for your ministry as well. And yeah, for those of you listening in, you can find all the details, right? Everything will be in the description down below, whether it's on Spotify or YouTube, wherever you're tuning in from, it's gonna be there. And yeah, once again, just really want to say thank you so much,
Thanks, Luke.
Pastor. Yeah.
Thank you
Okay.
for extending this invitation. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So that will be all for today. And so if you guys are out there, take care, God bless, and don't forget to have a pocket full of grace wherever you are. Bye.